And concerning the physical therapy, which I have gone through for the last 2 days, I can say I feel so much better. I feel happy. I feel a lot of change, and I believe it is really working greatly. What I was not experiencing before, I can experience right now, and I feel I should continue with this process so that I get completely recovered and a full person.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. Thank you for joining us. You just heard from fistula survivor Vicky about the importance of physical therapy in her recovery. Tonight's program features Dr. Tracy Spitznagle. She will be speaking about her trip to Uganda to develop the physical therapy program there. And you'll also hear from Executive Director Alice Imasu about the importance of physical therapy in Terrewode's programming. Terrewode is just one of 5 local leaders and organizations that we partner with and mentor. The WFF operating philosophy is to strategically partner with local leaders and organizations in low-resource countries to build their capacity to address childbirth injuries. Our mission is to protect and restore the health and dignity of the world's most vulnerable women by preventing and treating childbirth injuries. To date, and across 5 countries, we have reached nearly 1.2 million people with injury prevention and treatment messaging, provided over 5,000 surgeries, 3,300 and counting procedures have been completed by our urogynecology fellows in Ethiopia. Over 2,700 women have received reintegration training to return to their communities. Nearly 1,100 health workers have been trained, and over 800 fistula survivors are running over 400 group and individual small businesses for economic security. You can support our mission tonight by making a gift or by placing bids in our auction. Included in our auction are handcrafted items from the women of Terrewode. The auction is open through May 23rd in honor of International Day to End Obstetric Fistula. Bid now, and if you get outbid, you still have a chance to get those items that you love. We do have a $30,000 anonymous matching gift, so you can double your support of our work in Uganda, Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Niger by making a gift tonight. So let's get to our program tonight. WFF has partnered with Alice Imasu since she was developing her strategy for Terrewode while she was working on her master's in social work at Washington University in St. Louis. Since then, we've been providing operating grants for her holistic care model for outreach, surgeries, reintegration and vocational training, forming women into solidarity groups for economic security, and also prevention education. We also funded her first reintegration center. In 2019, I had the pleasure of attending the grand opening of Terrewode Women's Community Hospital, along with Dr. Tracy Spitznagle. Since the opening of the hospital, they have tripled their capacity for surgeries. Dr. Tracy Spitznagle has been a WFF board member since 2014, and during that time, she's held multiple officer positions on our board. She's currently chair of the programming committee. With her background as an educator and her expertise in the field, she leads all of our initiatives to incorporate physical therapy into our sites for holistic care. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Tracy Spitznagle.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to talk about something that I'm so passionate about. My name is Tracy Spitznagle, and I'm a professor at Washington University in physical therapy, but I have worked hard and long for the Worldwide Fistula Fund, and it's been a labor of love for, it'll be 10 years, starting in May. So my specialty is women's health, and I came to the board in order to help develop physical therapy programs across press the parts of the programming that Worldwide Fistula Fund supports related to birth injuries. Most recently, I was just at a trip to Terrewode Community Hospital, which was a wonderful experience. I was invited there by the director of the program there, Alice Imatsu. And Alice had been wanting me to come for several years, but with the pandemic and staff changes, finally was able to get there this past February. The purpose of the trip was to train the physical therapists that they had hired. Joshua is a new graduate from a physical therapy program, and he started in Terrewode Community Hospital in December. So he enthusiastically is rising to the challenge of learning how to care for women who have birth-related injuries. The program originally, the physical therapy program originally had a prior physical therapist that worked for them. And we, unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to do all of our mentoring virtually, which I actually finally got to meet the first physical therapist at a social dinner event while I was there. So that was really exciting. Hoping to bridge Joshua and Paul together because they're working in the same city. So that's one of the outcomes of the trip, was to have those two meet each other. So everywhere I go, I always get this question, what is PT and why is PT needed for women with birth injuries? And I just ask people to imagine someone in front of them that's pregnant and think about all the wonderful changes that have happened to their body simply because of the growing uterus and how it affects their abdominal wall and their trunk. And you can immediately visualize that this is a big change. And so every one of the women that we see at Terrewode Community Hospital has been pregnant. And many of them have been pregnant multiple times. And so those physical changes then get layered onto a traumatic birth that maybe they didn't have a surviving child. Or a delivery that created a fistula for some reason because of the surgical procedure that they needed to deliver the baby. So physical therapy can help with not only the trauma that's happened to the tissues, but also really take in the scope of what that individual needs based on how her body has been changing because of the multiple pregnancies that she's experienced. So when the women come to the center, a lot of times they're coming because of leaking urine or stool, and it's so stigmatizing and isolating. And so having a community for which they're being admitted into, and having a group of women that are all needing a resource in which to share their story with, the physical therapy can then layer on that activity that will give them something that will make them stronger, make them more likely to recover faster from surgery, but it will improve their mood. And it's so uplifting to know that you are not the only one who has this terrible problem, so you can share with like-minded individuals. So the benefits of group exercise are quite profound because they feel more empowered. They're doing something. Sometimes they'll use traditional music. Sometimes everyone will have a walk around the campus together so that they're doing a couple of laps. But it's that community and that sharing combined with the physical activity that really seems to uplift them. And so we're kind of doing two things at once. Boosting their psychology as well as their movement system. There was one woman that came and specifically needed help with what's called vaginal dilation. She'd had a vaginal surgery and all of the tissues had kind of stenosed down. And she had a lot of fear and a lot of pain associated with the touch in the area. And we were able to teach her how to use a simple tool that helps to dilate. And she was extremely motivated because she is a stepmom for 12 kids that were needing to get back into school. And we were catching her right at the end of their break. And she really wanted to return home, but she was so fearful that she was not going to be successful. So between myself and Joshua, we were able to evaluate her, get her to recognize that she was having difficulty not relaxing her pelvic floor muscles. And then she was able to, on her own, self-dilate with the device. And within 48 hours, the scarring and adhesions that she had that were narrowing her vaginal opening actually had been released. And she was independent with using the dilators on her own. And she just bloomed emotionally. She just couldn't, she was so proud of herself that she had kind of faced her fear and had tried using the techniques that we had taught her. And she was able to go home within 48 hours of us starting to work with her. So it was a complete team approach. Dr. Fakata had evaluated her, sent her to us, and then we got her back to him so that he could see how quickly she had responded. And he was impressed with the change, because you typically don't get to see change that quickly. And she sent me an email about a month after she was home saying that she was still able to use the devices, and that she had been able to have relationships with her significant other. And it was very cute. She was so excited about having that part of her life restored. So she was a wonderful success story as to how something very simple could to learn how to relax a muscle could have such a profound effect on her quality of life. One of the key important pieces about physical therapy is some women are not actually strong enough to tolerate surgery. Women will receive physical therapy from the moment of admission and going through an assessment by the intake team, and then get referred in right away. While they can be seen while they're waiting for surgery. And then if they're ready for discharge post and they're not quite finished with physical therapy, because they come back classically 2 to 4 weeks after surgery for follow-up, the patients are able to return to the center for follow-up with physical therapy. So it's the continuity of care is actually quite good. Simply because they're coming back either for their community reintegration or a follow-up for their surgery. And so that dedication on behalf of the patient, that they don't have to get it all done in the first bout of care when they're coming in, I think helps relieve their mind, because a lot of times they've got to go back to their community as soon as possible in order to care for other children or take care of other work needs. So PT can be done pre-operatively or immediately post-operatively. During the trip, one of the newer concepts that I brought to the table was the post-op care for the PT, and really working with the women on early mobilization, so that the sooner they can get up and move, the easier it is. And I was able to explain to the team as a whole the benefit of an abdominal binder, which is a common product that's available in the United States. Anytime you have abdominal surgery, that a post-op binder is placed in order to help stabilize the abdominal wall, and it really helps to reduce the pain. And we were able to get several women up and moving quite quickly simply by getting them in the binders and getting them going. So one of the goals of the trip was to develop team building for the staff, training specifically for how PT can be part of the team. Really trying to develop an understanding of what were the dynamics of the individuals Joshua was going to be working with. One needs to be able to understand what physical therapy is, be able to communicate to the patients about physical therapy, but also have a come to the table kind of a mutual respect for each other. And then we did a team building activity where we had everybody that was in the room, and this was the medical director, the person who ran the lab, the nursing, both surgical nurses and the floor nurses, and then the nursing aides that had been trained in physical therapy in the past. But even the hospital administrators and some of the individuals that work in the community reintegration program, because everyone that was in the room at the time needed to know be able to say in their own words what physical therapy was, because the patients were the ones that were going to ask them about it. And so we did a little team building activity where they had to explain to me what their favorite fruit was, because Uganda is well known for their fruits. And then if someone had a similar fruit that they loved, then all of a sudden we were building a team associated with that. And so we had team avocado, team banana, and you can kind of get, and as soon as somebody would say, oh, well, mangoes are my favorite, you could just watch somebody else's face light up. And then I would go, oh, now we have a new member of the mango team. And so from there, then they had to talk to each other and try in their own words, after having heard my lectures, explain to the other person what physical therapy was, so that they really were trying to verbalize in their own words what they had learned, but then also how physical therapy might be beneficial for the patients at their center. So it was a really successful morning. And everyone at the beginning didn't want to talk. And once we started talking about fruit, everyone loves fruit there. So that worked out great. Like they just really used it as a way to communicate with each other. So that they started to recognize how their interprofessional communication could improve, so that they could do a better job of communicating what the needs of the patients were. And it really was really helpful. At the debrief at the end of the week, that was one of the things that the group as a whole so that it really opened their eyes to, yes, they'd learned about physical therapy potentially in a high level, but they hadn't really expressed it or fully understood the scope. And that came from the doctors and the nurses. And the reality is that when you go through a training program, you don't learn about the other disciplines because you're focused on learning about yours. And so you really don't learn about the disciplines that you work with until you get out and start working in a health system. It was pretty exciting. That part I really, truly enjoyed. It was to see them working with each other and watching the team dynamics. Joshua being the newest team member, he's really interested in developing his understanding of how movement can help heal the women. And after I left the trip, he actually started a survey of the women to find out what would be an activity that they would be, a physical activity they'd be interested in doing, so that he could develop more kind of culturally appropriate activities that the women would actually be interested in. The complexity that can come with a loss of potentially a child or the loss of your physical health. And then how to manage that in an adequate way in order to help them heal. And physical activity has been found to be such a wonderful tool for helping people with emotional depression and anxiety, stress. So it's been really kind of a whirlwind, but an exciting program. In the future, I really want to hone in on what are the tests and measures that seem to be the things that are being consistently needed to track at the center, so that we could be able to have a data set that we would be able to share. my observations, and this is completely anecdotally, is that the women who get up and move quickly and get the rehabilitation, their neural recovery is faster. And so this is a story that hasn't really been told in the fistula world. And so I'd love to have him document that so that we would be able to show that the outcomes are better, their functional outcomes are better if they get care from physical therapy, even if they're not ready for surgery. That how fast the nerve improves is not well documented, and how quickly the recovery can occur if you get somebody moving quickly is something that is known in neural injury here in the United States, and it is a concept that is used quite frequently, but in the world of fistula, it hasn't been documented yet. So I'm hoping to be able to get to the point in a year that he's able to have consistent skills at documenting so that we will have the information that we need in order to describe what's going on there. To grow the program, what we really would need would be resources to help increase the amount of equipment that they have. So they have one bike, and there are commonly 3, 4, sometimes 5 women that are waiting for the physical therapist, who could be doing some aerobic exercise in between waiting. So equipment needs would be an amazing piece. So exercise mats, exercise balls, weights. Those are the kinds of things that really we need donations for to help support them. Other highlights of the trip. The team as a whole, it was kind of a team building activity, went and visited one of the cultural centers in the area. So we went up north to where there are these like elephant rocks that have hieroglyphics on them. And it was a really wonderful way for us to kind of, as a group, get to know each other, but to allow us to further explore something that some of the members of the team had grown up in the area where we were, and they had never been to see these ancient rock dwellings where individuals had lived 5,000 years before Christ. So it was pretty cool. And it was really fun for Dr. Fukada, one of the surgeons, one of the admits, and the physical therapist to just have some downtime so that they could get to know each other. So it really worked out to be a nice team building activity, to say the least. I get asked all the time, why do you do this? And I would say it's the smiles. The smiles on the faces of the ladies when they're able to walk better or aren't leaking urine or no longer have their pain. It's just amazing. They are absolutely priceless. Another wonderful benefit of being able to travel to Uganda was to see Alice Matsu in her element. Her vision for holistic care for the women at Terrewode Community Hospital is just so impressive. And her knowledge and understanding of physical therapy and how that really fits into the holistic model has absolutely grown with my time with her and the testimonials that she's heard from the staff and the patients. So I just, without further ado, I'm going to hand this off to Alice because she's an amazing soul, and I just love hearing her talk.
Well, thank you, Alice, for joining us. We all had a chance to listen to Tracy talk about the importance of PT, but I wanted to hear from you, your experience at Terrewode Women's Hospital and seeing the women. What was it that made you realize that PT was very necessary for you to include in your program?
Most of the women were coming to the hospital with foot drop. They were limping, some of them unable to walk, but at the same time, they were leaking urine. And so we figured out there would certainly be need for physiotherapy through consulting with the experts to deal with the limping, the immobile state of some of the ladies. And that is how we started digging deep into the need for physiotherapy.
Okay. So as you're developing this physical therapy program, that's part of the whole addressing the physical impact of their injury. But you also have a reintegration program, and I wanted to ask you a little bit more about what is the reintegration program at Terrewode?
So the reintegration program is a program that is provided based on the individual's need to reintegrate back into community following successful fistula surgery. And these needs vary and can be vary and can be a set of needs, critical needs. So for some women, they would need, in addition to having knowledge or needing knowledge about fistula, about what caused it, about its effects, about its treatment availability, treatment outcomes, all those, the lack of all that package affects the mental health of a patient who is still waiting for care and they are not very sure what the outcome would be. So reintegration program takes a bit of all that services related to increasing the knowledge, empowering the patients about their fistula conditions and how to prevent them, generally within the context of sexual reproductive health and rights, and provides it to them after they have fully recovered from the surgery. And also, in addition to that, there will be women who will need economic empowerment. Now, all of them need some level of economic empowerment, although the capability and the interest vary. For some ladies, they want to focus more on tailoring. Others are not able to do tailoring, but they're able to do produce buying and selling. This is where they trade in produce. They buy from one market and take to another market and sell it at a fairly better price. And some want to do hairdressing, others modern agriculture so that they can have good nutrition, nutritious food. So it varies, but as a group, they all need a skill in income generating activity. Others need savings and credit, how to help pull resources together as a group and lend to one another at an affordable, interest rate set by the group standards. And this facilitates many of the reintegrating women to begin to do some income generating activities, because these resources pulled together through their savings groups is lent out to individuals who can then use it as startup capital. The other aspects of these services is general empowerment, on health rights, general empowerment on health rights. It prepares them to be change agents for maternal health and sexual reproductive health in their communities. They never stay the same. They get to know about the rights and responsibility. When you get to a health facility, what is your right as a patient? What's your responsibility as a patient? So it really focuses on those kind of things, including a little bit of human rights, civic engagement, so how they can make change. But above all is leadership, and especially community leadership, where they have to start groups, mobilize community members, fellows, survivors of fistula, other ordinary women who are at risk of suffering fistula, women, girl, children, youth, men. They bring men as the allies, their husbands together, and then, develop a group constitutions or standards. And they, so they begin to resume to active participation in the community development initiatives. And it's so powerful and exciting, fulfilling to see these survivors really begin to reconnect with the other members in the society.
So teaching reintegration skills, ways in order to generate income at Terrewode as individuals isn't enough. You have to connect them with groups. And can you tell me about income generating activities in terms of individual ones, group ones? Tell me a little bit more about these solidarity groups.
So our program teaches the skills, but also follows the ladies in the community to mentor them, because it's not enough just to give them the skill. These are rural women. They are really very smart, but majority of them cannot write. So they record everything on their hard disks here. So it's good to keep in touch with them, and we follow up this for 12 months very closely, monitoring their health, mentoring them on the information they have grasped, to see how they are also translating that to other members of their communities. So yes, it's not just enough to give them skills. We follow them up. We follow up especially those that commit to go and start solidarity groups in their villages. And so they really need to go out to be motivated. They need to be mentored on how to organize meetings, how to set agenda for those meetings, how to keep, the membership together, those standards, the do's and the don'ts of living in groups. Then those that want to engage in the community to promote maternal health, those also need to be mentored. So we also have the different solidarity groups are mentored on different interventions based on the priorities of those groups.
So some of the income generating activities can be individual and they can also be group. So tell me about the bigger projects that the groups may undertake together.
At the start, every survivor wants to start with an individual level project. They want to do a business that is personalized. Okay. But when they now go into groups, then they begin to think of what can we do as a group, which is bigger. And some of these things are named mostly in the agriculture, the food production, animal husbandry, trade, like establishing a food stall in a market. So those are some of some of them need plowing machines. I think if you're familiar with the kind of agriculture, the farming we do here. So they can't buy those assets, or at individual basis, because the capital, their income is not enough. So when they come together, then they're able to engage into a much bigger business, which they do as a group.
Okay, and in addition to that, you touched on advocacy and that type of work that they do. Tell me a little bit about these music, dance, and drama groups in the solidarity groups.
So music, dance, and drama, and now we add on it testimony, storytelling. That is the primary service we give. We teach it to the patients at Terrewode Women's Hospital. We teach it to the survivors. And then we teach, during reintegration training. Then we also teach it during mentorship and the coaching in the community when they're in the solidarity groups. So for patients, we are doing it more as a therapy for them to heal, to relax. And, for survivors, we begin to teach it as a method for them to engage in their communities, a method for them to tell their stories in a more impactful way. It's the easiest thing they can do to go and engage with a local authority about improving maternal health. So yes, and for those who move with it to another level of advocacy, it gets even much higher. because now it is taught really at a much higher level of staging the drama, composing the music that is compelling, using the messages, managing the stage management while you're performing, the costumes that speak to your audience, culturally sensitive to the audience based on the message. So music is really, really the core of our reintegration program, as well as a pillar of our advocacy initiatives.
So it sounds like you have really embraced the holistic model to address childbirth injury, to address fistulas. And can you tell me a little bit more about how that has advanced the organization and brought maybe Terrewode more recognition?
Terrewode has done this for long now. If you look at the history of Terrewode, and Terrewode is, I would say it's a force to reckon with when it comes to promoting maternal health in Uganda, and especially using obstetric fistula. Yes, it is. And one of the things that stand out about Terrewode's method of addressing this debilitating health condition in our countries is really the use of music, dance, and drama. It's more about the holistic approach we have given to it, no single one strategy. We provide both a response and a prevention of obstetric fistula, which again, we use obstetric fistula to accelerate meaningful discussions around the entire maternal health and sexual reproductive health and rights of women in the country. So it's really very powerful to get the authorities, the people in power, those who are responsible, who can be held accountable to improve maternal health and the reproductive rights of women and girls, to pay attention to these ladies through sharing of their compelling stories and the learning, the deeper knowledge that they gain during reintegration program.
Thank you, Alice, for all you do for women in Uganda, and for all the work you do to help even our other grantees to see the model that you're working on. Worldwide Fistula Fund is very, very proud to be partnered with you. So thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for supporting us to innovate around this whole issue of obstetric fistula in our country. If it was not because of your support, I think we would have not been able to test some of these excellent strategies.
ato yang ngai ade kis gira riebo punya mame kle do bui konai opeda nyuna lo se konai ngara kini ngonera mame teto ni sirigin la beto salo sai ade kis asalus dongo na je dokte ngaran dong atome dokte de ngaran ngobe moto kono ya giltari be do pepone auta ngokira riebo ni paka kape wala rido chuti da tupuruchu age do ngalo se jukari dwe da tami dwe do didi alus na jai papa wolo to be joli mo solo to mo si papa bui ngara kango yang ngai ade kis so idolo sa de so pope lipe girli lip pope girl pono yang ngara renga ade kis dolo sa de kis bola dokte limon no bone be na so di tolo loto ko buanya na ngojo anya na nga dokta pono dum na iko ke pasi ti je ngana bongo kwa bona bua dokto limbon be oruru katai amuria atipe dolo to ina na je kyali suburi kini ko kangana lomu no tipe na raja bonge ngana bongo kapapas idolo sa muri do samura ne peta ongon kwenye mamsa pada do manga bua do mamukian tunge boy ki dari e bon ni na gen na ni san wongon tun san kanyam la kwa na meto ndi subore kere na bunga pere ko nai adumu aso gendo kwa ne muron abune re mamaka ne pete o kanyu ni abune re bagyo ne ko nai anya na rengo do de tamting pata ko bra papa ka.
Agnes' story is not unusual. She is among the 2 million women globally who suffer from obstetric fistula. And her story is not unusual. Often, these young ladies come from the poorest families in the world, and they may be offered for marriage at a very young age, which contributes to their being injured. Thankfully, Agnes was connected to Terrewode, where she was helped, and she was able to restart her life through their services.
Mukia ngoro kwangi to ayanga ngojo ayanga ngojo mukia ni na kwangi yo ne tengo Terrewode mukie ngo opono ina ngo season o Terrewode ina ngo season geta ya ngo ina kin season ni kama makere angoro ngunu ne potunete ara ne potunete yo geta ya palo sade kis atipe akisa pola bisi sai sa kiro ngunu pon sai kina ipon li tikere mama ngora du munyo e chwili osori kini ai ngara kina ngoro ra ngunu ne roke du munanyo ngale adu muna bune ramu kena Terrewode sa pola be da ona mu kian mo pon san kina ngakira ni kamera kire mono aso gene se group kere presi ge o se group ngon ge se mono imono so pono potsa ge otu emoni mono sikile ko de jasi tomato na ngore kiro re group angoni amorichon mono iso ikile ko de jasi kere toma so wagende ko ne gresbe ko na Guinness oge business ngara njo jojo sino group ase jon ngori sirigi no group jo mi sirigi ye ngora gola ranyanya ngopongoni eme na cabbage boro ngupe mutane ne da ngono rukingo aso wale ko ne group be kwa no ni sinyi ko ikise group age utu aduku te group awo ere agete sa duku ne group ngola wo ere agete sa ge ona wo ere ikoso sine ne subito subala ara ikoso sine le wete jiri ne ja sangoro rangu ne roke adu muna ngale
Thank you, Agnes, for sharing your story with us tonight. Good evening. I'm Board Chair Mary Rose Keller. You've heard from Agnes about the horrors of suffering childbirth injury, and additionally about rejection from her own relatives due to her condition. We are so proud of our grantee, Terrewode, and their work to help restore her life. Tonight's program highlighted Dr. Spitznagle's work to incorporate physical therapy into the holistic care and recovery model at Terrewode to help optimize recovery. Dr. Spitznagle has been involved with WFF for nearly 10 years, and we are so grateful for her work with our grantees to advance care for women with childbirth injuries. We proudly support physical therapy in Niger and in our Ethiopian medical training programs. Physical therapy programming is also under development in Burkina Faso. I am so proud to lead WFF and to support holistic care in 5 countries. And we are so grateful to you. Thank you for all of your support.
Thank you, Mary Rose, and thank you to all of you for joining us tonight. While we focused on Terrewode, WFF continues to support local partners in 5 countries: Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Kenya, Niger, and of course, Uganda. And all of those partners are hard at work to achieve their goals for 2023. 420 surgeries, social reintegration, and vocational training to 180 women, ongoing mentorship to 823 women in 34 solidarity groups to run over 1,000 small businesses, and prevention, education, and treatment awareness outreach to 270,000 community members. Now, if you were moved by tonight's program, I hope you'll consider making a gift. And as a reminder, our $30,000 anonymous matching gift is still in play, and your gift will be doubled. And don't forget, our auction is still live. So please take time to bid on your favorite items. And know that if you get outbid, the auction is still open until May 23rd in honor of International Day to End Obstetric Fistula. Thank you for joining tonight's program. We appreciate it and have a good night.
I never go to NGO like Terrewode. Terrewode has done wonder to Amuria. Terrewode has done wonder to Soroti. Terrewode has done wonder to Lira. I never go to NGO like Terrewode. I never go to NGO like Terrewode. Terrewode has done wonder to Kampala. Terrewode has done wonder to Jinja. Terrewode has done wonder to Moroto. I never go to NGO like Terrewode. I never go to NGO like Terrewode. Terrewode has done wonder. All the world Terrewode has done wonder. To Soroti Terrewode has done wonder.